back with Mike Lidskin for his show Twirl Radio. He's about to interview me on the show coming up today. Saturday, today's the 17th?
I think it's the 19th.
Oh, the 19th. I lost 2 days. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, we're going to talk about, I guess, some of my radio days back at Quad in the 90s.
Yeah, I referred to you on Facebook as the Dean of Northern California Alternative Rock Programming, so I'm honored to have you here in the Twirl Studios.
Thank you. That is quite an honor. No one's quite given me that title before.
They should have. They should have. I don't know what took them so long.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about public radio and how you think it is changing things, because I think in a way it's changing things. I know in San Francisco, NPR does really well there. In Sacramento, it just seems like when I hear people talk about, you know, what's the best radio, it tends to be public radio.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Capital Public Radio, although they're a bit monolithic in a way because they have 5 stations or so and you can hear the same programming on the same ones. I think a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum go to that as a resource for their news, so that tells me they're doing something right. If everybody says that's kind of our unbiased news source, public radio for news, they'll do in-depth where you could never listen to a station like KFBK and get more than 30 seconds on a story. Public radio will do 7 or 8 minutes in-depth and you'll really feel like you've learned something. On the music side, again, the same kind of thing. You know, we were talking previously that you just don't get to hear the creative indie music artists on commercial radio, and public radio we just find whatever sounds good. I think the indie artists are really happy to have the airplay. I'm really happy to have the good music to play on the air, so it's my honor to play their music on the radio. That's the way I look at it.
You know, Dave Barton, who used to write for the Sacramento Bee and then he was on Capital Public Radio, he had told me last year when we did an interview that Capital Public Radio is what sells records at the Beat Records in Sacramento downtown.
That makes a lot of sense. I think the folks there have some really good musical taste. There's that show Saturday nights, Blue Dog Jam. It's like an indie music show with a wide audience, and I think people are just craving that sort of thing. I think even people who maybe don't know that much about internet radio, if they're tuning through the radio dial, they hear that on Saturday nights, and that's kind of an oasis for them.
So Twirl Radio is your show.
Yes.
On The Voice, 88.7 in Sacramento. And I'm just curious, does Twirl Radio have a theme to it?
I always call it the finest music from the rock era. I use a little bit of squishy wording there, kind of fluid there, because I want to make sure it wasn't just rock. So basically the theme is find music from all genres that happened, say, from about 1955 to 2013. Anything can happen on this show, and as you will see today, it will.
So you come from Chicago, right?
Well, LA originally, spent 10 years in Chicago.
So you listen to WXRT in Chicago. And they had a slogan kind of like finest rock or
Yes,
something.
I copied it from there. Only an astute radio veteran like yourself would notice that, but yes, Chicago's finest rock, absolutely. I picked up my love for the freeform radio, well, long ago when I was a kid, but I was in Chicago in my 20s and 30s, and I thought, I want to do what these guys are doing. They're doing the best radio possible, they're having fun, they're making money. It's a commercial station owned by CBS when I was there, and they can still make money playing good music. Yes, I absolutely copped my routine. A couple of things I'll say on air occasionally were stolen from DJs like Frank Ely and Lynn Bramer over in Chicago, so yes, I owe a lot to that station.
You know, I would listen to it because from 97 to 98 I lived in Milwaukee.
That's right.
I was running a radio station there for a Green Bay Packer named Willie Davis.
Oh yeah, of course.
He played in the first 2 Super Bowls. And so I'd drive to Chicago every weekend. That was my great getaway, and I would listen to WXRT every time. And just a very well-programmed station with lots of surprises, which is what I like. And in San Francisco, we had a station like that at one time called KYCY, The City, and that was like late 80s, about 87. And a lot of people talked about it like, wow, this is kind of a really surreal station where anything can happen. And for a while, K-Fog was like that in San Francisco. But you don't really get a lot of that anymore except on public radio. Now public radio is where you go to hear surprises.
Yes, and I would love to hear more musical surprises. I hear a lot of news. When I hear music, it's jazz or classical, which I love. And in fact, there's one, it's K-Jazz in Los Angeles, which I'll listen to on my phone. I've got a little small phone with tune-in radio. I can hear radio from all over the world. So in the morning while I'm sipping my coffee or tea at work, I'll be listening to K-Jazz in Los Angeles, public radio station. So you get musical surprises there. I think what I'd like to hear more is music in the rock genre on public radio.
I agree. I mean, rock is kind of a wide umbrella that includes lots of subgenres.
Yeah.
And that was my thinking at Quad back in the 90s was, okay, we want to be a rock station because rock is cool.
Yes.
It's got that guitar bass that really, you know, gives it power.
Yes.
And also the acoustic side of rock is very cool. Anyone could pick up a guitar and start playing, and you know, anywhere without plugging in, and that's kind of the community spirit of rock. That it's about us, a crowd, you know, a community. And so that was my thinking back then, which still holds true today for the successful stories like yourself that do things that are innovative and community spirited.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that a lot. Yes, rock can be as big or it can be as portable as you want it to be. I've had people right here in the very studio that you're sitting in with armed with nothing but an acoustic guitar, a voice, and some really well constructed songs, and that rocks harder than some stuff I've seen on big stages.
Well said. So with that, thank you very much, Mike. Great talking with you.
Thank you, Alex. My pleasure.